When you're ready.
Should perfumes and colognes be used, and if so, to what extent? Perfumes and colognes are environmentally, scientifically, and ethically sound when the substances used are tested and monitored. You wake up and you get ready for the day, you brush your teeth and you make your bed, and before you leave for the day, you put on your favorite spritz of perfume or cologne. However, what you don't know is that the substance you are putting on your body likely contains many chemicals that are being emitted into the air. Now, why should you care? If roughly 298.7 million Americans alone wear fragrances on a daily basis, you can only begin to imagine the detrimental effects this has on the environment. But first, let's take a step back. Fragrances have been used for hundreds of years to enhance confidence and to release tensions and more. Early fragrances mainly consisted of bark, wood, seeds, flowers, and leaves. However, these ingredients have evolved, and now they mainly consist of harmful chemicals. In fact, fragrances contain more chemicals or release more chemicals into the air as cars emit petroleum. These fragrances can contain anywhere around 3,000 chemicals, sometimes more and sometimes less. With this in mind, roughly 40% of consumer products end up in the air, contaminating the air pollution that affects roughly 90% of the world. Of these fragrances that consist of roughly 3,000 chemicals, many are not tested by the FDA. With this, the FDA has also released, shockingly, that over the past 50 years, 80 to 90% of fragrances contain petroleum and chemicals including acetone, toluene, phenol, benzyl acetate, and limonene. Many perfumes and colognes on the market contain a high percentage of VOCs, also known as volatile organic compounds. VOCs contribute to the short and long-term effects of the air that we breathe. A look into VOCs has shown scientists that not only do fragrances affect outdoor air, but also indoor environmental air qualities, which are greatly reduced with the presence of fragrances. Additionally, fragrance molecules are airborne, leading to VOCs to linger and further contaminate the air. According to California Air Resources Board in 1990, 265 tons of VOCs were released into the air on a daily basis. This contributed to the air pollution, contaminated waterways, and effective aquatic life. With fragrances largely contributing to this pollution, we can only think to reestablish what our fragrances really consist of.
Scientific lens. According to Dr. Alan Hirsch, smells can change a mood more than anything else. With this in mind, not many fragrances are checked or approved by the FDA before hitting the shelves, and this is a problem because it can directly affect our neurological output. Inhalation of fragrances has a direct pathway to the limbic lobe, the part of the brain that controls our emotional output. Emotions like fear, anxiety, depression, anger, and joy are all controlled by the limbic lobe, and alterations of this lobe can lead to serious complications. The inhalation of fragrances can also trigger memories and emotions before the victim is even consciously aware of them. The limbic lobe can also directly activate the hypothalamus, which is one of the most important parts of the brain. The hypothalamus is the hormone control center, which controls sex hormones, growth hormones, thyroid hormones, and neurotransmitters. Alterations with the hypothalamus can lead to problems such as growth stunt or too much growth, hitting puberty too early or late, fatigue, constipation, weight gain, Inhalation of some sense goes directly to the limbic section of the brain and can interpret our stress levels, heart rate, blood pressure, and breathing as well. Over the years, lots of information has been gathered about the positive effects of essential oils on the brain and general well-being, but there is very little known about the effects of synthetic fragrance on the brain. And an example of this comes from the 1970s, which was the case of synthetic fragrance causing widespread health issues. The chemical AETT, also known as acetyl ethyl tetramethyl tetraline, was being used in many personal care products. Multiple studies using animals concluded that the use of this chemical in fragrances caused significant brain and spinal cord damage. All of this knowledge in the spotlight, the FDA still refused to ban the chemical for commercial use. The chemical was only withdrawn from widespread use by the cosmetic industry many years later. This directly shows that there are chemicals in colognes and perfumes that can be damaging to the brain that the FDA cannot currently regulate. While fragrances are potentially incredibly harmful to the brain and nervous system, the fragrances used in perfume and cologne can affect our integumentary system as well. The use of perfumes and colognes can negatively impact the skin in many different ways, including contact dermatitis, contact urticaria, photoallergy, and phototoxicity. It is believed that about 1 to 3% of allergic contact dermatitis and contact urticaria is caused by the use of fragrances.
When a product is used for intent to make a person more attractive, it is considered a cosmetic product according to the law. The FDA defines fragrance as a cosmetic product, and more specifically, these products include perfume, cologne, and sometimes aftershave as well. Incorporating fragrance into a product that is scented or that is used for something other than fragrance itself, however, is different because a product is scented yet used for therapeutic purposes on the body, then it would be considered a drug and not a fragrance according to the law. This discrepancy matters due to the fact that fragrance ingredients within the U.S. do not need a specific or a specified label by law other than the word fragrance itself. The term fragrance is used very loosely, specifically when it comes to cosmetic products, because cosmetic products is greatest concern for consumers because they do not know what ingredients or possible allergens or toxins they are putting directly onto their skin. This tends to be a concern for consumers that prefer organic fragrances over synthetic blends, as well as those with allergies. This is because the FDA does not require allergen labeling to be nearly as precise as they do for allergens in food, often leaving consumers worried. Erin Lauder, who uses organic ingredients in her fragrances, states that it's tricky to formulate perfumes with natural ingredients. They don't last as long on the skin, and if you're paying for a fragrance, you want it to last. A fragrance formula can be a combination of multiple different real or natural ingredients, as well as chemical or synthetic ingredients that are not revealed to the average consumer. The FDA does require all ingredients but fragrance to be listed to allow companies to keep their trade secrets. The law requires all products on the market to be safe for consumers when they are used according to label directions. However, the law does not require the FDA to approve fragrances or cosmetic products before they go on shelves in stores. This is under the Fair Packaging and Labeling Act, stating that so long as a product is labeled with the ingredients in proper use, it can be sold in stores. That being said, the FD&C, also known as the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act of 2022, Act does not allow misbranded cosmetics to be marketed, meaning that a product cannot contain any poisonous or toxic substance that could lead to harm if used as directed. Although some products may contain fragrance, they can still be labeled as unscented due to the amount of fragrance in the product as well as the purpose of the product. For example, many will be labeled as unscented while still containing fragrance to mask another ingredient's unpleasant smell, all while not making the scent noticeable to consumers. The FDA ensures that there are laws like the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act centered around labeling, misbranding, and safe use, but it is evident that this act and laws do not stop all harmful ingredients, allergens, or even toxins from being used directly on our skin. It is likely that the average consumer would trust a product that they see being sold at their local convenience store because it does not make sense to a consumer why a manufacturer would produce and distribute a harmful product for profit. This kind of logic is causing a divide between the consumer and the manufacturer due to the reality of the situation, which is that the FDA does not need to regulate products before they go on the market. This approach is unethical due to the fact that companies are still selling synthetic and chemical fragrance blends for customers to buy and use when they could easily cause skin sensitization, allergic reactions, and or reactions to toxins. Even though companies are required to ensure that their products are safe, there is a gray area where fragrances get thrown into the mix and can cause a lot of issues between the consumer and the manufacturer. Addressing the problem with the FDA becomes difficult to do because it is a legal issue, meaning that a change in the FDA's legal authority over cosmetics such as fragrance specifically would require Congress to change the law. When considering these ethics of production and distribution of fragrances, there are many areas throughout the whole process that need to be improved and or changed. For example, the Fair Packaging and Labeling Act should require a product's label to contain the ingredients included in a fragrance, organic or synthetic. The issue with this change is that many companies do not want to expose their trade secrets that typically separate one fragrance brand from another. By risking the exposure of their trade secrets, the consumer can feel more at ease purchasing what they want, as well as knowing exactly what they're putting on their skin and clothes. The FDA was created to keep consumers safe and allow them to feel more at ease when it comes to buying their own products, and until the FDA can further regulate the Fair Packaging and Labeling Act, as well as the regulation on cosmetic ingredient labeling, it's not ethical to distribute fragrance to consumers.
Keegan, reflecting on your colleagues' work, which one had the greatest impact on your overall understanding of the problem that your group identified?
Luke's lens on the scientific effects helped me better understand the environmental effects, because a lot of the environmental effects do ultimately impact people's health.
Okay, thank you. Luke, give one specific way your thinking changed as a result of learning about Ali's findings?
With Ali's findings about how a lot of companies don't really have to put they can just label everything under the smell as fragrance. It really made me think that, oh, if all these terrible chemicals from my lens are just labeled as fragrance, then why don't we have to specifically say what chemicals so we know what we're putting on our body?
Thank you. Ali, what is a way in which your team's resolution makes you think differently about your own individual writing?
Thinking about the environmental lens specifically thinking about the environmental and specifically really thinking about all the effects that each different chemical or toxin had on the environment really made me think about my lens as well, and thinking about how ethical it really was to not only be using it on humans but also what chemicals we're putting out into the environment, which I didn't quite touch on mine, and I focused more on the labeling portion of it. But.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Another round